What makes for a great first chapter? That question led me a while back to deep dive into the opening chapters of the legendary Big Three: One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. Even though I was already familiar with them, analyzing those intros with a critical lens gave me a new appreciation for how well they set up their worlds, themes, and characters. It was a blast, and judging how passionately you all debated and went at each other's throats over which one did it the best, I knew we had something special. So why not do it again? This time around, we're turning the spotlight on the battle shonen that defined the post-Big Three era, that being My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, and Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer. Yep, Demon Slayer is in the script. Okay. Let's do this. Just like last time, we'll analyze the first chapters of the series in depth, breaking down their strengths and weaknesses to answer three key questions. What is the story about? Where does it take place? And what is it trying to say? For a better understanding of these questions, go ahead and check out the first video, link in the description. But in short, they cover the essential elements that you need for a strong opening: world building, setup, plot, themes, etc. I'm especially excited for this analysis because, unlike last time where I was equally fond of all of the series we covered, not to mention my crippling One Piece bias, my feelings on these three series are varied, to put it mildly. Plus, they each have distinct styles representing different takes on the battle shonen formula that have evolved following the success of One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. As a matter of fact, My Hero's first chapter came out the same year Naruto's manga run concluded, and the other two were released relatively 2 years apart from each other, making them strong contenders for what I would call the next generation of battle shonen. So, let's get into some fun. I actually ran a poll to gauge how you guys felt about these three respective series before we actually do the analysis, but we'll push past the biases for now, look at these as critically as we can, and come out with an answer on who has the best first chapter. Starting off with My Hero. As I mentioned earlier, My Hero Academia debuted the same year Naruto ended, and for me, it felt like the perfect passing of the torch. A friend recommended it to me after I was telling him that I was bummed out that Naruto was coming to a close. Shout out to him, and I kid you not, he told me that this was going to be the next big thing. He wasn't wrong. And revisiting the first chapter, it's kind of hard not to see why. Like Naruto and One Piece, My Hero kicks off with a prologue that introduces us to a fantastical new world, one where nearly everyone has superpowers. But unlike those series, this exposition happens on page 4. The first 3 pages focus on visual storytelling and world building, starting with a flashback, then shooting back to the present. Horikoshi cleverly uses the traditional double-page manga spread not just for flash, but as a detailed introduction to the world, drawing readers in with imagery before hitting them with exposition. This choice builds a deeper connection right away. We're introduced to Midoriya, a quirkless kid in a world where having powers is the norm. He dreams of becoming a great hero, even though the world constantly reminds him it's impossible. But when he shows pure selfless bravery, leaping into danger to save someone who's bullied him his whole life, his dream is finally acknowledged by his idol, All Might. That moment sets the stage for the journey ahead and hits like a gut punch. The story is already dripping with themes: chasing dreams against all odds, standing up against others despite fear, and confronting societal hierarchies that define worth by power. And those threads are woven seamlessly into the narrative. It's the kind of storytelling that I love. Midoriya is incredibly relatable. He's timid, yes, but never irritatingly so. Often stuck in small panels, it's a brilliant visual metaphor for how society tries to push him aside. Yet when it matters most, he moves. He acts. And that contrast makes his growth all the more satisfying. What makes this opening chapter shine is its tonal balance. There's hope, heartbreak, humor, and real emotional depth. It plays with the traditional hero origin structure, but adds a twist. The big payoff isn't some power-up or magical ability, it's someone believing in Midoriya. That acknowledgement alone is enough to bring him and us to tears. Quick side tangent. I was not planning on judging these series based on their art because art is subjective and all of the artists are doing their own thing, and high quality art doesn't necessarily make for a good story. Cough, cough, One Punch Man, cough. What I will say is Horikoshi's art is absolutely insane. It is so good. From the jump, his line work, expressions, and panel layouts are next level. Just gorgeous stuff across the board. We don't get the full breakdown of the quirk system in this chapter, or even detailed names for the powers we see. But there's just enough variety in the abilities to spark curiosity, plus we have All Might, who represents the pinnacle of what these superpowers can offer. He's literally the #1 hero. The way these powers shape society is subtly teased too. Heroes casually clocking in to deal with issues. Crowds treating battles like entertainment. Everyone waiting for the right hero to show up rather than helping themselves. It all hints at deeper issues that the story will definitely explore later. Then there's Bakugo. Not just your typical hot-headed rival, he's the embodiment of unchecked power and systemic abuse. He's been bullying Midoriya for years, trying to crush his dreams at every turn, and can't stand the idea of being saved by someone he sees as beneath him. As a second lead, he is written with purpose and layered complexity. My Hero's first chapter is fantastic. Horikoshi doesn't waste a single page. Every moment serves the themes while keeping it entertaining. It's inspiring, it's tragic, it's full of potential. It might be a 10 out of 10, but let's not jump the gun. We still have a wild card ahead of us. Alright, so anyone who knows me or has seen my past work knows that I'm not the biggest Demon Slayer fan. I've watched up to season 2, and from there I can confidently say that the series just isn't for me. But what I can admit is when a story clearly knows what it's doing, for the most part. While it doesn't totally grab me, Demon Slayer has some good narrative instincts. So I want to see if that carries over into its first chapter. Hopefully I don't end up regretting this, but we'll see. The story opens with a vague flash forward. Tanjiro and Nezuko are running through a snow-covered forest, clearly in danger. The next page drops us back into the present, with Tanjiro heading into town. This structure immediately sets up dramatic irony. The readers know something terrible is coming, even if Tanjiro doesn't. That lingering tension creates a slow building dread that carries throughout the chapter. And that's key, because Demon Slayer isn't interested in the typical optimism you find in most battle shonen. Tragedy is the core of its identity. Tanjiro lives a quiet, modest life in the mountains with his family. After making a trip into town to earn a little money, he returns to a nightmare. His entire family has been slaughtered by an unseen demon, all except his sister, Nezuko, who to his horror has been turned into a demon herself. What follows is a desperate struggle to protect her, despite the danger and despite what she's become. That moment sets the stage for the rest of the story, Tanjiro's journey to save the last person he has left in his life. What I do appreciate is how the tonal shift is gradual. At first, the vibe is warm and grounded. We see Tanjiro interact with townspeople, offering a glimpse of his kindness and sense of responsibility. But as the story continues, that warmth fades. An old man tells ominous tales of demons, and those tales quickly become a grim reality. Tanjiro finds his loved ones dead, drags Nezuko through the freezing snow, falls off of a cliff, has to fight for his life when she turns on him. It's blow after blow, but through it all, he never stops trying to protect her. And that is what I would say is the real theme here. Not just tragedy, but perseverance in the face of pure loss and cruelty. Even when the Demon Slayer Giyu Tomioka shows up, cold and ready to kill Nezuko without hesitation, Tanjiro fights back, not out of rage, but desperation and love. And in a surprising twist, Nezuko finds herself resisting her demonic instincts, choosing not to harm her brother. Those two acts of defiance move Giyu enough to give them a chance. One last hope that Tanjiro can find a way to save Nezuko. Unlike My Hero, Demon Slayer keeps world building and exposition minimal in the first chapter. We don't get much on how demons work or what demon slayers even really do. And honestly, I think it works here to some degree. The confusion and uncertainty mirrors Tanjiro's experience. He's thrown into chaos, and so are we. Tanjiro doesn't really blow me away as a character. He's not flashy or particularly unique. He's more of an everyman, reacting in the same way anyone would in his shoes. He's grounded, empathetic, and very human, which I can respect even if I don't find him especially compelling just yet. There's no real deep dive into power systems here. This chapter is more about establishing the two opposing forces, demons and the slayers who hunt them. Giyu, with his calm brutality and killer be killed aura, represents the hardened cynicism that this world seems to run on. Compared to My Hero, there's not as much to gush about, but I wouldn't say it does anything poorly. It's simple, it's sad, it gets the job done. All in all, it was a decent first chapter. I really wanted to hate it, like really bad, but I can't. I have to give credit where credit is due, and it was pretty good. Whatever. Finally, we have Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I know this is going to bother some of you because technically Jujutsu Kaisen 0 exists, but let's be honest. This is the one that people started with. It's the one that people watched the first episode on before they even knew this existed. And when you go on the Shonen Jump page, it says that this one has chapter 1. So that's the one we're going with. I don't know what to tell you. What really caught my attention during the reread of Jujutsu Kaisen was just how much of Bleach's DNA you can feel pulsing through the foundations of it. From the jump, we're introduced to a strange character on a mysterious mission with unclear implications. The story initially centers on establishing our protagonist. Where Bleach gives us Ichigo, the hot-headed badass with a heart of gold, JJK introduces Itadori Yuji, a carefree, goofy kid with an equally kind soul. Shortly after a quick supernatural exposition dump, our hero ends up facing off with a mysterious threat and in a desperate gamble takes a dangerous power into himself in order to survive. It's a real Bleach play-by-play, and I don't even mean that as a knock. It's not a ripoff, it's a spirited homage. The reason I bring it up in the first place is to express how successful tropes and writing structures don't need to be avoided just because they've been done before. They've worked in the past for a reason. The real challenge is making it your own, which JJK does. Where Ichigo gained the power to become a Soul Reaper, Yuji ends up possessed by an ancient malevolent spirit, Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses. The chapter ends with that possession unresolved, leaving us on a high-stakes, tension-filled cliffhanger. Okay, so here's something that I noticed not only in JJK, in every series we've talked about so far, and a lot of newer series, so follow me here. Each one includes a specific line or quote in the first chapter that becomes emblematic of its core themes, either a reflection of the protagonist's journey or an omen of what's to come. You don't really see that in the big three, at least not right away, outside of Bleach maybe, with the "Thus Fell the Blade of Fate" poem. But it's a trend I've picked up in a lot of newer shonen. For My Hero Academia, it was "People are not born equal." That was my first and final setback. That line establishes everything: the divide between the power and the powerless, and Deku's uphill battle to overcome the gap through sheer will. In Demon Slayer, it was "When happiness ends, there's always the smell of blood in the air." It's an omen for things to come and is symbolic of the world Tanjiro resides in, a somber acknowledgement that joy and suffering are deeply entwined. In Jujutsu Kaisen, we get "You're a strong kid, so help people." That line hits on multiple levels. On the surface, it's a touching final wish from Yuji's grandfather, an acknowledgement of who Yuji is. But thematically, it's also a statement about morality. It's about doing what you can while you're alive, even if your time is limited. And more than that, it speaks to the series' concept of curses, how emotions, especially grief, regret, and fear, can transcend death and manifest physically. Yuji internalizes that message, and it's what drives him into the chaos that changes his life forever. It's a prime example of using a character moment to reinforce the large thematic direction of the story. If you're a fan of newer battle shonen, I would go ahead and try to see if you can pick up on these particular lines in their first chapter and see if they're able to kind of encapsulate all of what the series has to offer. And if you pick some up on some older ones, please let me know. I would like to take a look at those further. As for the rest of the chapter, it's solid. It doesn't quite wow me the same way My Hero's first chapter did, but it definitely gives me more thematic meat to chew on than Demon Slayer. Like Demon Slayer, the pacing follows a steady build. It starts calm and grounded, then ramps up the stakes fast. There's not much focus on world building or the power system yet, but we do get little teases, like Megumi mentioning cursed energy and summoning his demon dogs. The world is familiar, basically modern Japan, but with supernatural elements lurking beneath the surface. Visually and narratively, it's clean and efficient, nothing overly flashy, but enough to make you want to read on. All in all, solid first chapter. No major complaints. Hold on before we get to the actual chapters themselves. We gotta rank those damn double page spreads. Boy, do I love them so much. When a mangaka has the excuse to flex their artistic potential, I am there for it every single time. So obviously, gotta start with the heavy hitter, My Hero Academia. It is perfect. 10 out of 10. No notes. I love it so much. It's unique. It's used as an actual panel for the story. It's full of detail and hope. Super comic book vibes. I love it. 10 out of 10. Second place goes to Demon Slayer. It's elegant. It's simple. I like it. 7 out of 10. And lastly is Jujutsu Kaisen. It's a 6. It's fine. Doesn't really invoke anything in me. It's just the characters. I like the colors, but not much to write home about. 6. All right, so let's rank the chapters. Starting with Jujutsu Kaisen, since it's fresh in my mind, I'm giving it a solid 7 out of 10. A strong start, thematically on point, and I'm immediately locked in on Yuji as a lead. Everything else, just cool for now. The cliffhanger was clean though. You don't really see that kind of bold ending often for first chapters, and I respect it. Next up is Demon Slayer. Also, 7 out of 10. I know, I'm shocked. It's a really solid opening. It gives you exactly what you need, it doesn't take any wild risks, and it also doesn't trip over itself. The focus is on tragedy, which is refreshing for the medium. I didn't expect to vibe with it, but hey, credit where credit is due. And finally, My Hero Academia, you already know what time it is. 10 out of 10. That first chapter is perfect. If Naruto's intro pulled on your heartstrings, Deku breaking down after being told he can be a hero by All Might, that's one of those all-time moments for me. The emotional payoff, the thematic groundwork, the pacing, the visual storytelling, it's firing off on all cylinders. No notes. Chef's kiss. Mwah. But hey, like I said, these are just my thoughts. All of this is subjective. These points and scores don't really matter. I really just love talking about these stories, what they have to offer, what do they mean, why were they constructed the way they are, and sharing that information with you guys. So please, in the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Which one was your favorite? Which one you thought was the weakest? I would love to hear your takes, but that's going to be all from me. See you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Peace.